Hello and welcome. This is MBC Exclusive. My name is Blessings Chileoka. Glad you could join us. And in this edition, I'm engaging the Vice Chancellor for the Malawi University of Science and Technology, MAST, Professor Adris Malata. Professor, welcome to MBC Exclusive.
Thank you.
Briefly, could you tell us the mandate of MAST?
So the mandate of MAST is to spearhead science, technology, and innovation to support Malawi socio-economic development, not just Malawi, but also the region and beyond. So it means we are an international institution, a global institution, but at the end of the day, we would want to see science, technology, and innovation push the socio-economic development of this country.
For how long have you been the Vice Chancellor?
So I've been a Vice Chancellor since 2016.
2016.
Yes, quite some time.
Yeah, quite some time.
Yeah.
And as the Vice Chancellor, what are your aspirations in as far as getting the university to greater heights is concerned?
Yeah, so my aspirations is to change the trajectory for higher education. Because I think over, I would say, perhaps 5 decades, Malawi has seen graduates come out of our public and, of course, now private institutions. People get degrees, diplomas, people become, PhD holders. But I think at the end of the day, what Malawi needs to see now is action. Mm-hmm. Can we manufacture as a nation? Can we come up with products? And I do think that universities play a critical role in ensuring that we produce capacity, skills for manufacturing, because Malawi has been importing for many decades, as you know. Mm-hmm. And also at the same time, we have studied universities, around our country, but also beyond, our close neighbors here into other countries in Africa, the whole world, global. Universities play a critical role in ensuring that there's production in a nation. And I think my aspirations, particularly for MAST, is to ensure that we go into now manufacturing, commercialization of products, having patents, innovations that come out of our university should be on the market.
But why do you think this is not the case in Malawi?
So I think it's the programming. I think our curriculum, perhaps over years, has focused more on preparing someone to get a job. Mm-hmm. And so we have changed that thinking. We do believe as a university that we need to create innovators, we need to create entrepreneurs. So in our programming, our curriculum now, we ensure that every student has to go through entrepreneurship and innovation as special courses. And we've seen already a difference, that when our graduates are coming out of MAST, they don't look at, if they have a job opportunity, they are not looking at getting into that organization as someone who is just looking for a job. They look at the organization as a business. And I think that thinking can actually help this nation. But beyond that, we have a shrinking job market globally. The jobs are not there. So some of our graduates have already created companies.
The talk of the nation now is about the Malawi 2063. I don't know, as a university, what are you doing to align yourself to this vision?
So we are privileged, and I actually thank God that I think the people that came up with the idea of MAST quite a number of years ago, when you look at the mandate of MAST, actually it fits very well with Malawi 2063. Our visioning, our mandate fits very well with Malawi 2063. So the 3 pillars in Malawi 2063, you will find them in the programming at MAST. And we have just now launched a new strategic plan. And this new strategic plan, the 4 pillars that are in that strategic plan are all addressing Malawi 2063. The 5th one is looking at people and society, which is really a generic pillar that says what answers, what solutions can we bring to this nation. So we are actually in our first 10-year implementation of our strategic plan thinking about what we are calling Solution MAST 2030. What difference can the university make in this nation? What we are saying to ourselves is, if Malawians were going to pose the question, was it worthwhile to create an institution of higher learning called MAST? What answers would we get from the public? So because of that, we've challenged ourselves in our new strategic thinking that we should now push more into industrialization. And how do we do that? It's our programming. It's about the curriculum. It's about giving students an opportunity to have, those critical skills. So we have work integrated learning as part of every student's activity. So I said every student has to go through an innovation course, entrepreneurship course, but also they need to have an experience with industry. But we've also opened doors to industry to come on campus. So they can come, they can teach, they can also be just part of what we're doing. That relationship makes a difference in any education institution. The moment you work very well with private sector, with industry, you have an opportunity even to get feedback regarding how your students are, how your graduates are. I must also say that we've seen over the years that our graduates seem to be doing very well on the job market in terms of competition.
Now, looking at the universities in the country, when it comes to international ratings, Malawi universities have been performing miserably. Why do you think this is the case?
So I wouldn't say performing miserably, because many times it's also not really joining the race. And I would think
I know you came out best.
Yeah, so the trajectory is changing. I must say one thing that probably MAST has done is to change the way things are done in higher education. Everybody's now racing, everybody's running, which is good because Malawians deserve better. We can do better as higher education institutions. And so I do think that perhaps we need to start looking at how can we perform now. Because when we look at the past, there could have been many issues. And honestly, there was really one public university. And now the real test comes in when you now have several universities and each institution trying to do their best. And I do think that now it is time to know where we really are. I do know, of course, that when it comes to rating, there are many parameters. And I also know that it does take time for you to really come to a point where you can say we can be rated. There are certain, ratings that maybe none of the institutions in Malawi may be able to get on that rating because of some huge parameters. But what is important is to start. So MAST started. And I would think that all of us will be in these races so that we see where we are in terms of rating. Getting international students only happens when people start looking at an institution that's not just local. And I think that many of the institutions in Malawi, as you can see now, even some of the private institutions are really pulling and even getting international students. So we can do better. I think the past is gone. For me, what is important is the future. Can we push all our public institutions, private institutions in Malawi to do the best, to offer the best, to produce the type of graduates that will be ready for the market. But more importantly, those that can create jobs, because the job market is shrinking. So even if you have very good graduates, not every graduate may pick a job, but can they have some ideas? And I'd love to see some students that don't necessarily have an expertise in one area, but should be able to vibrate in another area. A young lady that went through our program in chemical engineering won an award because she created an innovation for shedding groundnuts. And I was shocked. This is someone who was doing chemical engineering, but she was able to come up with an idea, developed something, and she went into that competition in long and won. And that's what you want to see, innovation. The youth dividend is something that Malawi should use because our population is youthful. And our youth learn beyond their course content. And we should give them a platform to vibrate. But much more important, I think unique for MAST is the fact that we've also created room or space or a platform for those who don't have degrees.
Okay.
You don't have to have a degree to come to MAST with your innovation. So we have a community innovators program. Anybody with a good idea, they can come to MAST. We can look at their idea. We have a design studio. We have an innovation garage.
Some would argue to say that you are diluting the values.
Then they don't know. Because when you look at innovations globally, majority of the people that have come up with good innovations are not necessarily graduates. So leaving out those people who did not have an opportunity to go to school and go through the type of degrees we have had ourselves would be a lost opportunity. We've seen. So we brought in a few young people one was from Mulanje, the other one was from Kasungu, and the other one from Rumpi. Very good innovations. And we've seen, we're actually polishing. We're already going into prototype, and one of them going into commercialization. No degree, no MSCE. And that's what currently should be done. and also making sure that we do not even just throw away people's ideas. I would also want to say that what I think has also been a challenge for Malawi is, producing a pipeline. So for innovation, technologies, let's start when people are very young. So pre-primary education, Kombapala, and then primary education, secondary education. So the time these young people are coming into universities, they are already very innovative. We might look at Malawi Institute of Education, look at the curriculum, and start pushing in ideas that will create, that innovative mind in our young people. I also want to say that I think information, knowledge is power. What we've seen over the years in Malawi is young people come up with innovations. They put them on WhatsApp, and it's all over. And then people steal their ideas. And then they complain, this was my original idea. So what MAST has done is also to provide opportunities for people with innovative minds, with ideas, to come and learn how to protect. So we do help them to patent, to protect their ideas, so that when people take their ideas, we can say, no. This was an original idea created by so-and-so.
We are living in an ever-changing world for technological advancements. As a university, what are you doing with the new innovations, like, for example, artificial intelligence?
Yes, so as a university, we've actually created a Center for Artificial Intelligence. We're calling it STEAM. So we're covering the whole area of science, engineering, mathematics, and then, of course, arts. But AI, and now we're talking about fifth industrial revolution, is what we should be doing. And I'm so glad that we launched our center last year. We have universities, over 10 universities in the US that have come forward to say, hey, we want to work with you, we want to support you, we want to support your curriculum. And we also have had an opportunity to partner with Samsung. Samsung came to MAST and said, we've heard about you, we've learned about you, been through leadership of this nation, and we want to talk to you. And they came, and when they came to MAST, they fell in love with the campus and looked at what we were doing, our programming. So they've decided to actually open a Samsung school. And they want us to bring young people, rural young people that don't have opportunities to our campus to learn about coding and many other activities in AI. So AI is the talk of the day. We can't say we will not do AI in Malawi. We're already in AI era. And for us, I think we were very wise. I think God's help, I would say God's Spirit helped us. It was the time we launched, then the whole story about AI changed the whole world. Everybody's talking about AI. You go to any conferences about AI. So we are well placed, and our center has already been recognized. We already have partners within the region, partners outside the region. Even now, the UK, I've had some discussions with universities there. We are going into programming. We are giving opportunities for young people to learn about AI, but also helping every sector. AI is here to stay, and we just have to manage. We're also looking into legal framework. We do think that we can add value, so we had an interface with members
Maybe
of
before we
Parliament.
go to the legal framework aspect, in case you're just joining us, this is MBC Exclusive, and my guest is the Vice Chancellor for the Malawi University of Science and Technology, MAST, Professor Adres Malata. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back, MBC Exclusive. As I did mention, my guest in this edition is the Vice Chancellor for MAST, Professor Adres Malata. Professor, you were talking about the legal aspect of artificial intelligence. How far have you gone?
Yeah, so we did have an interface with members of Parliament, because we do think that the legal framework needs to be looked at. And we do know that MACRA and other institutions have been working on that. But what is key is that Malawi as a nation needs to come up with a legal framework that protects its citizens. Because if you're not careful with AI, you would have, a chaotic situation where people lose jobs, perhaps when they shouldn't have lost jobs, but also there's some ethical issues that need to be managed. So the best is to look at how is our legal framework, how do we protect the citizens. There are some advantages of AI, there are also some negative impacts of AI, and that needs to be looked at. And it's not just about looking at the legal framework, but also making sure people know what are the implications. When people are losing so many jobs, how do you create new jobs? So people usually say, when you have AI, when you're using too much AI, then everything will be done by machines. It is true. But at the end of the day, if you use AI very well, you can also create jobs, because you give people an opportunity to create maybe applications, and then they will be creating jobs for themselves. But it is very important that as a nation we have a sober mind. We don't copy what's happening in other nations, because our context is different. And that's why we thought in our meeting with the members of parliament, we were saying, look, you need to be careful, because you protect Malawians in your office, and let's look at what is currently prevailing in Malawi, what additional aspects need to be added to our current legal framework. Because AI, people say that AI has been there for decades. It's just that perhaps it's the naming and maybe new issues coming on board, but we all know now that robotics, is a big issue. You even have hospitals. We've gone to hospitals where you actually find robots carrying, equipment in a hospital, and they're saying, hello, please, I want to pass. And then they come in, they clean, they sweep. But in a country like Malawi, we're also looking at individuals that need to have jobs. So the balance. But that requires that we have a proper conversation, and not one grouping can do this. I think we need to bring everybody on board. Let's have, stakeholder consultations. What is good for Malawi? What is not good for our nation? We cannot just be copying what's happening all over the world, because we also know that if you are not careful, you actually end up, injuring your people.
In 2021, you established Endowment Fund. I'm interested to know what has been the response so far.
Yeah, so the response has been very good. I must thank private sector in Malawi. We've had an overwhelming response to our endowment fund, and also an understanding what is an endowment, because people think they give you money, 100 million, tomorrow you pay fees. Endowment, when you are given that money, you have to keep that money. You only use the interest from that money. So you have to invest, go on the money market, and, buying shares and all sorts of things. But what we've seen is that, because we've given feedback to each institution that gave us money, this is how your money is, this is how we have developed your money, we have multiplied your money, this is where you are. Most interesting bit is that for the first time this year, our endowment is now ready for disbursement of scholarships. So we do have students this year we've created enough money for over 100 students that will now be fully sponsored by MAST under endowment. And we want to encourage private sector and individuals to come forward and say, I want an endowment.
Measures to make sure that the right students benefit from
so
this fund.
Measures, we do have a board of trustees, and some of them are independent members, like the Chamber of Commerce, Bankers Association, but also an institution that's putting in more money. They will sit on the board. The reason is because we also want to make sure that none of us has got, an ability to get resources for what they may think are important things. So that's on the part of managing the fund. And we also have fund managers that are looking on the market and looking at how do we multiply. We are close now to 4 billion Malawi kwacha. We are able now to disperse, scholarships, over 100 scholarships, about 150 million this year. It means no student that must, if they are truly needed, must go back home because they can't pay fees. We are using the loans board facility. So there are students who get maybe partial scholarship, full scholarship, but any student who applied to loans board and only got a partial scholarship would like now to top up so that they are fully sponsored. There are also students that applied were not able to get, because there's a lot of competition and public and private universities need to get funds from loans board. afford, those ones we should be able. So we are now in the process of sorting out. We've also sent out messages now to say if there's someone who is still at home because of no fees, can they come back? And this week we saw a few students return to campus. They will be covered on that scholarship fund. In terms of students, we do have a screening process. There's a team, I think close to 8 individuals that must, and the students also within the student body that sit down and scrutinize every student that's claiming to be needy, so that we do not give scholarships to students that perhaps can afford. At the end of the day, our thinking is that we should get to a point where one day mass doesn't only support its own students. We can even support students from other institutions, maybe secondary universities, if we have extra resources. Our desire, so we do think the fund has done very well, because we had thought we would have been at this point already above maybe 3 billion, but we really like $1 billion even ahead. So we think that if we do very well in the next few years, we should have a very good, scholarship fund for our students, but also the whole entity, making sure that we are in very good billions to support our needs. No student must go back home because they cannot pay fees.
From your explanation, it seems you don't have challenges at MAST.
No, we have many challenges at MAST. We do not have adequate classroom space. We do not have, adequate hostels for our students. We also don't have even housing for our staff. So our staff have to go to MAST every day by bus. So we are pushing that we can get extra infrastructure on campus so that our students have enough space to sleep, but also to attend classes. As I speak now, we do have a group of students that were selected. They should have been on campus last year or early this year. They're still at home because we have no space. And we've tried to get space in Malata, very difficult. We tried one venture that collapsed because people were fighting, so we didn't want to get ourselves into a fight, legal issues. But at the end of the day, my thinking is that encouraging private sector, international organizations, let's push for more classroom space, let's put for more hostels, even staffing for staff, because then staff would stay at MAST, they don't have to come into town. But of course, we also need resources to make sure that we have adequate members of staff. We've done our best with partners. We've done our best in making sure that we get resources in research, doing very well, I must say, for a university that's only existed for 10 years. But at the end of the day, there's need for more investment. Government has helped us. Government has been to our aid in many ways, many times. But I do think that there's a lot of competition in terms of institutions. They need new institutions. We need to expand all universities. So we do think that we still have major gaps that need to be filled. And our endowment fund, actually, we have an element for infrastructure. So if it does very well in future, we must be able to say, okay, no resources from somewhere, but we can put up a hostel.
Maybe finally, there is this vice about sex for grades among the universities. Have you ever had any case at MAST to do with this?
So not a case that I know, but we do protect our students and also protect our staff. So we do have what we call PCA, guide that we have developed. This is really for protection, so for gender-based violence, but also for anything that's really got to do with, issues of immorality or people trying to use students. These issues, I think for Malawi, we've had them over time. And we've given an opportunity for our students, if there is anything they're suspicious about, they can come to us. We've also had staff sometimes who have complained about perhaps some, moves from students. But at the moment, I must say that we do have a very good, a protection system. We also give students an opportunity to speak, but also staff to speak. We have also a system, if there's a complaint, how do you take that system forward? What I would want to say here, because this is public media, that if people have heard anything, they should not hesitate to reach out to say, we've heard this, we would investigate. Many times these challenges come because young girls, they may go through something, but they're always afraid that if I speak, then perhaps I'll be victimized. But in today's world, I think it is good and fair for any student who has gone through any type of victimization to come forward, even direct to my office to say, you know, I want to share something and please don't disclose my name. As long as if they were going to go into a court of law or maybe go into a hearing, they should be able to speak, because you also don't want a case where a student is struggling and then they decide, you know, I'll say the teacher was doing this to me simply because they think they will get sympathy. So our system at MAST, we do have policies. If there's an issue, how do you complain? And our policies now are actually UN rated, because we have a project with UNICEF and there was a requirement that we upgrade. So it's not like just a normal, you know, policy. It's actually a very advanced policy where if the thing's happening, and it's quite interesting even to know that it's not just about somebody saying something to you, your gesture, the way you look at someone, you know, it's very sensitive. So we're giving information so few people know what comment can you make to a lady, to a man, and what does that mean. But what is very important is that students should know what is a problem and where to complain. But I also say I also want to protect my staff. They should also know what is a problem and whether they should do certain things and not do certain things, maybe comment in a certain way. Actually, when we were renting our heads of department recently, they all laughed. They were like, you know, we didn't know that if you comment like this, actually someone can take that as an issue. But at the end of the day, we don't want this to happen, not only at MAS, but I think in higher education institutions. And young people that could be listening to me, you don't have to suffer in silence. If you have an issue, please raise that issue. And there's always ways that you can be protected. I think no one should be victimized. No one should go through a challenge because they were not able to be listened to.
Professor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I don't
you.
take it for granted. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
On that note, we conclude this edition of MBC Exclusive. My guest in the program was the Vice Chancellor for the Malawi University of Science and Technology, MAST, Professor Adres Malata. And my name is Blessings Chileuka. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.